Ladies and gentlemen, let me share something that could touch your spirit today. There's a reason some women never fall apart. They've walked through the fire, felt betrayal, heartbreak, and disrespect, and yet they carry themselves as if untouched. If you ever come close to them, it's not because they're emotionless or cold, it's because they're protected. There's a presence around her, guiding her, creating paths even when she can't see the road ahead. And once you begin to see those signs, you'll understand why she always rises again, why no weapon aimed at her ever truly wins. So if you are that kind of woman or you're becoming her, don't scroll away from this. Every second of what you're hearing is a reflection showing you the strength you carry inside. It may appear like she's on her own, like she's missing out on something. People might ask how a woman like her can move through the world without constantly needing someone by her side. No fanfare, no large group, no big entrance, just her, moving gracefully and quietly with deep meaning. But what they fail to see is that she's never really by herself. She isn't empty, she isn't chasing applause, she isn't desperate for attention, she's guided by something deeper, something most don't get because they're too caught up in the noise of the world. She's been through too much to depend on short-lived connections. People have walked in and out of her life like her heart was a waiting room. She's been betrayed by those she counted on, left behind at her lowest, and still she didn't let it break her. She didn't become bitter, she became smarter. She realized that some people show up only to teach you how to stand alone. And once you learn how to walk your path on your own, you'll understand. You were never truly alone. You were being hidden, protected, kept aside for something bigger. When a woman learns how to walk alone, it means she's found her own voice again, not the voice of shame, not the lies of fear, not the whispers of manipulation, her own voice, the one that speaks truth even when the world tries to silence it, the voice that tells her when to leave, when to release, when to trust, and when to step back. That voice isn't loud, it's sacred. It speaks in stillness. That's why she walks alone, to hear it clearly. She understands that not every person is a gift. Not every crowd is safe. Not every friend is true. She's figured out how to sense energy, how to notice what unsettles her spirit, how to spot danger that wears a friendly face. And when you've spent enough time with the wrong people, being by yourself feels like healing. It's not being lonely, it's being free. It's the kind of peace that makes her appreciate her own company, and that's what makes her untouchable. Darkness doesn't always show up waving red flags. Sometimes it blends in, it flatters, it pretends, and those who are always looking for company usually miss the warnings, but not her. She's trained her spirit to be sharp. She doesn't always need signs. She senses when something isn't right. Her spirit speaks louder than words, and her silence keeps her aware. People often wonder how she's so content on her own. What they don't see is that being alone showed her the difference between being valued and being used. It taught her to stop giving to people who only take. It taught her that love isn't about begging anyone to stay. It's about loving herself enough to let them go. She doesn't fear letting go anymore. She welcomes it because she knows peace is too costly to keep trading for chaos. What protects her isn't just physical, it's spiritual. It's the invisible hand that pulls her back from danger. It's the soft inner voice that says no, even when everything else says yes. That protection doesn't always make noise. No flashing signs, no applause. But it shows up in small, powerful moments. Like when she didn't answer that message, when she didn't show up to that meeting, when she declined that offer that turned out to be a trap. That's not coincidence. That's divine shielding. And that protection grows stronger when she walks in quiet. Because when you surround yourself with too many voices, they drown out your wisdom. Their opinions blur your focus. But when you walk alone, your inner vision becomes clear. You hear with purpose. You act with power, not pressure. And that power, evil can't touch it. Some people will misunderstand. They'll say she's cold, distant, but they don't see that her silence isn't a wall. It's a sacred space. It's where she finds her center, where she hears truth, where she regains her strength. Most importantly, it's where she becomes unshakable. She's not lost. She's not wandering. She's not aimless. She's being directed. Every step is chosen. Every path is meaningful. Every quiet moment reminds her that no matter what shadows exist, she isn't weak. She isn't easily fooled. She's covered. And being protected doesn't always mean having armor or weapons. Sometimes it looks like quiet. Sometimes it looks like being alone. Sometimes it looks like a woman walking solo, but carrying the strength of thousands inside her. So the next time you see her walking confidently with no one beside her, don't feel sorry for her. Don't assume she's lacking something. Know that she's walking in purpose. She's centered. She's in a season where being separate is her safety, and she's never been stronger. She doesn't need to explain herself. She doesn't wait for someone to show their real face before trusting what her heart already knows. Her spirit feels the truth before actions reveal it. When someone steps into her life, she feels the shift, the tension, the strange silence. It's not paranoia, it's perception. She doesn't guess, she knows. She doesn't just see with her eyes, she sees with her heart. While others fall for smooth talk, fake smiles, and bright lights, she sees what's hidden. She's not moved by appearances. She's not fooled by charm. She's faced pain head on. She's met lies with open eyes. She's been through betrayal and didn't just survive, she changed. Her awareness became her shield. Her calm became her protection. She pays attention to more than words. She notices tone, timing, and the energy behind every action. That uneasy feeling when someone grins but her heart pulls back, she listens to that. That's how she keeps herself safe. Not by arguing, not by proving herself, but by seeing clearly. She doesn't need to confront every situation. Her spirit already knows. Sometimes she can't even explain it, but when someone looks perfect, yet something still feels off, she trusts that feeling. She doesn't wait for the storm to come. She steps back. She gives space because she knows that not everything good-looking is good for her. Not every open door leads to peace. Not every admirer has honest motives. That's what keeps her protected. She doesn't shut out her inner voice. She follows it. It's never steered her wrong. That voice saved her from repeating another painful chapter. It warned her before trouble arrived. It held her up when words weren't enough. When people let her down, she doesn't need to talk about her intuition. She just moves differently. When something shifts, so does she. No chasing, no pleading, no guilt. She guards her peace with boldness. She doesn't live to prove anything. She's focused on protecting what she built. Her calm, her focus, her healing. Darkness doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it grins, sometimes it pretends to care. That's why her instinct is her strongest protection. She's seen kindness used to control. She's had regular talks that left her soul tired. That's why she doesn't judge by sight alone. She listens with her whole spirit. And the more she trusts that deep truth inside, the clearer everything becomes. Confusion doesn't rule her anymore. People who once had easy access to her no longer reach her soul. She knows the price of ignoring her intuition. She's paid it before. She stayed too long, gave too much. But she learned. The hard way, yes, but she learned. And now she doesn't give darkness another chance. Her weapon is awareness. Her strength is seeing things others miss. She doesn't need to announce it. Sometimes she just steps away. Sometimes the strongest answer is silence. No drama, just wisdom, just peace. She doesn't argue with what her soul already understands. If it feels wrong, she believes it. That's how she stays ahead, miles ahead. Some may say she's too closed off, too emotional. But they don't see that her sensitivity is her superpower. It was forged in pain. It was shaped through hardship. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. She feels the room shift. She notices the energy change, and she respects that. That's why evil can't reach her easily. That's why manipulators can't last around her. They can't hide behind pretty words. She sees it all. She doesn't need evidence. Her knowing is quiet, yet it's strong. That deep sense, that sacred instinct is what helps her avoid traps, ignore empty promises, and stay away from anything that doesn't fit her spirit. She feels the darkness before it even appears, and that's why she walks in light. Not just the kind of light people see on the outside, but the one that lets her truly understand things. And that kind of light can't be touched by any darkness. The enemy isn't even worth her attention. That's not being soft, that's being wise. She's been through enough to know not to let small-minded people drag her into their storms. She sees how negativity works, not always by attacking up front, but by stealing her attention, shaking her peace, and confusing her direction. Once you understand this, it becomes clear that some people show up just to upset you, not because they're powerful, but because your calm makes them feel uneasy. So she no longer gives them the reward of her reaction. She knows how to walk away, not out of fear of conflict, but because she's not going to waste her strength on battles that lead nowhere. She understands that some folks come around just to cause trouble, test her patience, or pull her out of character, but she's past all that now. She's too steady and too locked into her path. Growth has taught her that silence can be her strength, distance can be her protection, and peace is her true win. She knows now that being protected doesn't always mean being kept out of the storm. Sometimes it means having the courage to ignore it, to not answer the call, to skip the argument, and not let herself get pulled into the chaos. That's true growth. When you don't get shaken by every shove or every test, when you spot the trap and go around it instead of walking right in, you begin to see peace as a choice. Some will try to disturb her calm. They'll use lies, guilt, and manipulation. They'll push her buttons to see if they still have control. But she's not the same anymore. She's evolved. She doesn't act from emotion anymore. She doesn't react without thinking. She moves with meaning. She values her focus too much to waste it on those who haven't earned a place in her space. That's what separates a woman who is guarded from one who is reactive. A woman who's protected has learned to pause before she speaks, breathe before she replies, and think before she takes action. She knows that some people only want to drain her, distract her from her goals, and shake her calm because they can't handle how centered she is. When you carry light, darkness will always try to find a way in, but it only wins if you step into the shadows. So she stays firm. She shields her peace. She lets people think what they want, say what they want, and believe what they will, because at the end of it all, her purpose speaks louder than their chatter. She's not here to prove anything to anyone. She's here to protect her peace. And that's what bothers negative people the most. A woman who stays still, doesn't react, and lets her silence be louder than their noise. When you don't give them a response, you take away their power. When you walk away from fights that aren't yours, you leave with your peace whole. Her strength is in her stillness and the wisdom that keeps reminding her. Every battle doesn't need to be fought. Every argument doesn't need a reply. She doesn't owe explanations to people who already made up their minds to misunderstand her. She knows who gave her this path. She knows what lives inside her. That's why she doesn't feel the need to prove anything. Some might call her cold, some might call her distant. They might say she should have reacted, that she should have spoken up. But she knows the price of stepping into chaos. She understands how easy it is to lose your balance when you're fighting in places you were never meant to be. So she doesn't argue. She doesn't defend herself. She rises above the lies, above the mess, above the noise, because she knows that to rise higher, sometimes you have to let go. Every time she walks away from what was trying to destroy her peace, she becomes more protected. Every time she chooses silence over revenge, she becomes stronger. Every time she refuses to explain herself to people who aren't on her level, she grows. She doesn't accept every invitation to a fight because not all conflict is worth her time. Some things are just noise. Some people are just distractions. And deep inside the woman she's become, her discipline is her shield. Her silence is her strength. Her victory is in the fact that she's still standing, still calm, still focused, still full of power, while everything around her tries to break her down. She stays steady. She doesn't fall for tricks. She doesn't jump at every jab. She doesn't fight just to fight, because deep down, she already knows she's won. She knows not everyone deserves access to her life. She's not chasing approval. She's not trying to impress anyone. Her loyalty isn't for sale. Her energy isn't up for grabs. She values her peace far too much to allow just anyone into her space. Because once you've been betrayed, once you've been hurt by people you trusted, once you've seen fake smiles hiding real harm, you learn that being close to you is a privilege, not a right. She doesn't keep people around just to avoid loneliness. She doesn't accept surface-level friendships that leave her empty. If it's not honest, if it's not built on love, truth, and trust, she lets it go. She's not afraid of being on her own. In fact, she finds power in it. Because in silence, she finds direction. In stillness, she hears wisdom. The noise of others would drown it out. That's why her circle is small. Not because she doesn't like people, but because she chooses them wisely. She understands energy. She knows that the people you let close can either lift you or break you, so she guards her space like it's holy. She's learned that evil doesn't always show up screaming. Sometimes it smiles, sometimes it claps when you win, while secretly hoping you fail. She's felt that pain. Now she listens more carefully. She watches with more awareness. She doesn't let titles like friend, family, or love stop her from noticing actions. She doesn't need a crowd, just a few loyal souls who celebrate her without comparison. People who don't gossip because they have integrity. People who don't smile in her face and talk behind her back. And if she doesn't find those people, she's fine walking by herself. Because peace with herself is better than chaos with others. She'd rather walk alone with truth than be surrounded by lies. Her spirit stays clean because she does the work within. She doesn't just protect herself from others. She checks herself too. She owns her flaws. She holds herself responsible. She forgives, not because others deserve it, but because she won't carry poison in her heart. That's her way of staying protected. She won't let darkness live inside her. She knows what's inside you becomes what you draw in, so she lets go of hate. She releases jealousy. She gives up revenge, not because she's weak, but because she's wise. She knows a clean heart leads to a clear path. She knows blessings come more freely when there's nothing blocking the soul. Bitterness feeds evil, and she refuses to feed it. She lets go of the pain. She heals. And in that healing, she becomes untouchable. Bad people can't guilt trip her. They can't twist her feelings. They can't drag her into their confusion anymore. She doesn't live from her old scars now. She's in alignment. Her strong inner circle is her defense. It's not about the number. It's about the truth. Real souls recognize each other. Loyalty finds loyalty. Her world is built on honesty, not attention. That's why negativity can't touch her. It can't survive where purity lives. A clean heart shows the dirt in others. It makes fake people uncomfortable. It makes liars nervous. It makes users disappear because they can't use her anymore. She doesn't chase anyone. She doesn't beg for love. She doesn't force relationships. If it's not mutual, she lets it go. If it's not real, she sets it free. She knows if something has to be forced, it's not right. What's meant for her won't ask her to give up. Her peace. That's why she sleeps well, not because everything's perfect, but because her space is real and her soul is at ease. And no matter how deeply she cares, if someone disturbs her calm, she'll choose herself every time, because she's not scared of being by herself. She's scared of losing who she is in fake relationships. She's afraid of giving her all to those who only take. She fears repeating cycles she's worked so hard to escape. So she stays alert, not closed, just wise. And when something doesn't feel right, she listens. because her experiences taught her that peace is her guide. Chaos is a sign. Her circle is made of those she doesn't have to watch closely. Their actions speak for them. Her spirit is clean because she's done the work. Her life is covered, not because she fights darkness, but because she doesn't allow it in. That's why she walks tall. That's why she moves with confidence. She's not dragging old pain. She's not carrying fake people. She's not listening to soft-voiced snakes. Her life is rooted in truth, and a life rooted in truth can't be shaken. Not by lies, not by betrayal, not by darkness hiding in sweet words. Her circle is tight. Her spirit is clear. And that is her protection. There's something incredibly strong about a woman who stays calm when the storm rolls in. While others lose their balance, trying to grasp control, she remains steady, composed, and firm. She stays grounded. She doesn't let the noise of the world shake the stillness inside her. Her calm isn't built on comfort. It's rooted in something deeper, something earned, something shaped through trials, sorrow, and endurance. She didn't discover peace because life was gentle. She discovered it because life tested her, broke her down. It pushed her to her limits, and yet she remained standing. This level of peace can't be imitated. You can't fake your way into it. You can't borrow it from someone else. You must earn it. You have to walk through flames without letting them change your identity. You must watch everything crumble and still choose not to fall with it. You must let go of what you thought was necessary. Say goodbye to those you believed would stay forever and still get up with determination. That's where true peace begins, not in comfort, but in rising. She's not moved by it because she's grounded in something beyond her emotions. She doesn't run after closure. She doesn't chase explanations. She's come to understand that peace often arrives when you stop trying to control everything and start trusting the process. She doesn't need all the answers to feel secure. All she needs is to keep her thoughts steady. That's why when difficulties show up, she doesn't fall apart. She's already been there. She stood in darkness and refused to let it consume her. She felt fear and still pushed forward. She cried in the night and still rose at dawn with fire in her soul. She knows how to remain composed in the middle of disorder because her peace isn't connected to a lack of problems. It's tied to the strength within her. People often confuse her calm with weakness, but they don't realize what it took for her to find that calm. It takes bravery to remain still when everything is loud. It takes inner power to be kind in a world filled with rage. She doesn't argue to prove herself. She doesn't crumble just because things fell out of place. She's learned to move with life's currents without letting them pull her under. That's not just growth, it's protection. It's spiritual armor. She doesn't need her surroundings to be peaceful in order to feel peace. She builds that calm inside. She guards it. She feeds it. She treats it as sacred because she knows people will try to disturb it and life will try to shake her, but if her inner world stays in order, then the outer chaos can't touch her. That's why you'll see her walking through fire with a smile, as if she's walking through a quiet garden. Because peace isn't about your environment, it's about your inner state. And toxic people, they despise that. They hate that they can't reach her, that their drama doesn't affect her, that their silence doesn't make her doubt herself, that their manipulation doesn't work on her. They throw shade and she doesn't flinch. They try to confuse her, but she stays focused because she knows her peace and her power aren't things they can steal. So she clings to it like it's life itself, because in many ways it is. She's not naive. She knows storms will come. Life has taught her that peace doesn't mean a perfect life. It just means you're no longer ruled by its flaws. That's why she doesn't talk fear. She doesn't prepare for failure. She strengthens her mind. She grows her spirit, and she walks with quiet confidence through every low season because she knows valleys don't last forever, but the strength built in them lifts you higher. She doesn't need everyone to approve of her journey. She doesn't explain her path to those who only want to judge her. Peace keeps her protected from that. It gives her room to move in silence, to choose wisely, to walk away without needing to prove a point, to focus on what really matters, to breathe deeply even when the weight of life is heavy. That's true protection, not from pain, but from reacting in ways that only give pain more space. So while others rush, panic, and spin in circles, she walks slowly. She walks with intention because when you have real peace, your vision remains clear. You don't chase, you don't fear, you don't collapse. You flow, you believe, you rise. Even when the world feels like it's falling apart, she doesn't fall with it because she's not built from the outside world. She's built from strength, wisdom, and an inner center that no storm can break. That's how you recognize a woman who's truly protected, not because life doesn't test her, but because when it does, she stays grounded. She doesn't let the outside noise mess with the calm inside, and that is the sign of a woman who has walked through the flames and came out stronger. A woman who truly knows herself. A woman who doesn't need the world to slow down because she's already carrying peace inside her. There's something powerful about a woman who doesn't beg for answers, doesn't chase after people, doesn't hold on to what's clearly fading when her spirit senses the shift. When the energy turns cold, when the peace starts to vanish, she pays attention. She doesn't wait for chaos. She doesn't need proof. She doesn't require a dramatic scene to confirm what her soul already feels. She simply walks, and she does it with her head high, full of grace, and most importantly, without ever looking back. She understands something many miss. Peace has a price, and anything that threatens that stillness and clarity is too costly to keep. She isn't afraid to let go. She doesn't fear losing people. She's not worried about disappointing those who expected her to stay small, because she knows the cost of being out of alignment is far greater than the pain of letting go. Some may call her silence cold, but she knows it's wisdom, it's strength, it's survival. She doesn't entertain confusion. She doesn't involve herself in chaos. She doesn't argue to be understood. When something feels off in her heart, she honors that. She treats her intuition like it's sacred because she's learned. Sometimes your soul recognizes the truth before your mind does. And if you keep staying in places where you feel empty, you'll start to shrink just to fit in. And she's not here to shrink. She's here to live. She walks, not because she's heartless, but because she's healed. She walks away because she understands you can love someone fully and still decide not to go back. You can forgive entirely and still choose to close that door. She's not angry. She's just not wounded anymore. For people who never even noticed her pain, that's not pride, that's healing. When she leaves, she doesn't slam doors, she doesn't shout, she doesn't create drama. That's not her way. Her quiet departure speaks louder than words. And those who truly observed her know that when she walks away, something sacred walks away with her. Because her presence isn't ordinary. It brings comfort, it brings light, it brings balance. And when she's gone, the room feels different. The energy shifts, because what she carried can't be replaced, it can't be copied, and toxic souls hate that. They hate that she won't play their games. They hate that she won't shrink herself to fit in, that she won't lower her standards just to be liked. They hate that guilt no longer controls her, that chaos no longer pulls her in. She's too solid now, too rooted in truth, too aligned with her purpose to be thrown off track. There's a reason she doesn't explain anymore, doesn't defend her peace, doesn't argue her decisions. Because she knows peace doesn't need an explanation. You either feel it or you don't. And if you don't, that's not her responsibility. She didn't come here to be understood by everyone. She came to protect her energy, to live her truth, to honor her calling. And if leaving is what it takes to protect that, she'll leave with quiet strength and zero regret. She's learned how to release, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. She understands that some people only show up to teach you what not to allow. Some experiences exist only to remind you of your worth. And when their lesson ends, so does her presence. She doesn't force anything to remain. She stopped watering what no longer grows, stopped explaining herself to people who feed off her uncertainty, stopped going back to places where she's only tolerated. When she walks away, it's not bitterness, it's self-respect. It's a deep care for the woman she's becoming, the one who doesn't shrink herself for comfort, the one who's unavailable for anything that doesn't grow her, heal her, or raise her spirit. That woman, she's unstoppable, and that's how you know she's protected. Because no matter how loud life gets, no matter how messy it becomes, no matter who tries to pull her down, she leaves not just with her body, but with her heart, her energy, and her spirit. She doesn't leave pieces of herself behind in broken places. She leaves whole, she leaves ready. That kind of strength, that kind of calm, that kind of love for self, it's not found in books. It's earned through heartache, betrayal, sleepless nights, and quiet strength. That's how she became who she is now, a woman who doesn't just survive toxic environments, but rises far above them, because darkness can't hold on to a soul that's truly alive, a soul that's awake, a soul that's protected by something greater. And if you see even a glimpse of this in yourself, know this: you're not forgotten, you're not weak, and you're certainly not being punished. You're being protected. And sometimes the greatest blessing isn't what comes your way, but what never makes it to your door. Walk confidently. You are chosen.